Hello guys, my best compliments to you all. Today we would start with a poem, A Psalm of Life. And this poem is composed by an American writer, H.W. Longfellow. It was first published in New York literary magazine named Knickerbocker in the year 1838. This poem is one of the most popular and greatest, most famous poems in English literature as it teaches great lessons on life. The main theme of the poem is how to make the most of life. This poem belongs to a group of poems or genre of poems called carpe diem. It is a Latin phrase used by Roman poet Horace. Carpe diem means seize the day or pluck the day, meaning you must utilize your time as best as possible on your part. This poem is acclaimed as the most inspirational and popular poems in English literature. Now let's go into the poem. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, but the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. The poet says that, tell me not in mournful numbers. The poet addresses a pessimist who thinks that life is negative, life has no value, and life is nothing. To him, the poet addresses and advises him not to tell him in mournful numbers. Mournful numbers mean sorrowful verses, or he advises the pessimist or the person who takes life in a negative way. He advises him not to tell him in a pathetic tone, in a sorrowful tone, in a grievous tone that life is but an empty dream. But means only. Some people having negative attitude or some people with pessimistic attitude, they think that this life is nothing, it is a dream and it is evanescing and it has no worth at all. And to them, the poet says that he is not ready, he is not in a position to listen that life is an empty dream, and they should not tell the poet. This poet doesn't want to listen that life is an empty dream, and mournful numbers here is a poetic device. Here numbers refer to biblical chapters and sections indirectly, and therefore this poetic device or figure of speech is called an allusion. Some people of negative attitude, they hold life as something false, just like a dream. It is unreal, it has no value. Life is transitory, evanescing, and it is meaningless. And the poet exhorts them not to cultivate such a negative attitude towards life. The poet wants them to be optimistic, and the poet advises them to cultivate an optimistic attitude towards life. He is not ready to accept life as a dream because the poet thinks that life is not a dream. It is not unreal like a dream. And the poet is optimistic to the core. He takes life positively. He wants to make the most of time, and he wants to understand, realize, and conceive the value of life, the worth of life. According to him, life is packed with meaning. It is worth living, and it has a lot of connotations, lot of meanings, and one cannot express that what it means, how much value it has, how much precious life is. It is quite ineffable. After all, the poet wants to hold life, to consider life positively or optimistically. Some people consider life to be an empty dream, and here life is compared to an empty dream. This is called a metaphor. This poetic device is called metaphor, and a similar poetic device when the prepositions like as and like are used are called a simile, but here it is not a simile, it is a direct comparison, and therefore life is but an empty dream is an example of metaphor. The poet is not ready to accept life to be a void like dream, unreal like a dream. According to him, life is not barren but fertile. Then the poet says, for the soul is dead that slumbers. Means the soul that slumbers is dead. Here that is used as a relative pronoun. Slumber meaning to doze, to fall asleep, to go to sleep. Soul that slumbers, meaning the soul which is asleep. The soul refers to the soul of a person. So the soul is a person, the person who slumbers, the person who dozes, the person who nods, the person, the lazy who is lazy, and those who are lazy, those who are idle, those who are indolent, they fall asleep, they don't understand the value of life, the worth of life, and they underestimate life. They do not go deep into the meaning of life. For them, life is an empty dream. For them, life is unreal, and that person is just like a dead soul. The soul that is dead slumbers, meaning the slumbering person. A slumbering person here refers to a sleeping person, a lazy person, one who kills time, one who wastes time, one who doesn't understand the value of time, one who whiles away time. After all, an indolent, lazy, and idle person, a person who is good for nothing. Such people take life negatively, and they hold a pessimistic attitude towards life, and the poet abhors them. The poet holds them in contempt because the poet is positive and optimistic to the core. He takes life positively, and those who take life negatively are defunct, and they are inactive, and they are never agile. They consider life, they regard life to be something useless, meaningless, and valueless. For the soul is dead that slumbers. Means the soul that slumbers, meaning dozes, that snoozes. The soul of the person who is in a stupor, or those who are lethargic, they think that life is nothing but a dream. But according to the poet, life has something to give. We must make the most of time. You should utilize the best things given or presented by life. And in the last line, the poet says, things are not what they seem. Life seems to be a dream. Life seems to be a dream. Life seems to be unreal. Things are not what they seem. Though life seems to be a dream, it is not a dream. It has some value, it has some reality, and life, here the poet makes a contradictory statement. Things are not what they seem. This contradictory statement, here the poet has used a poetic device called paradox. Here, the contradictory statements are opposite to each other, but they are true. Such a description, such a statement is called a paradox. Meaning, we should not judge here life externally. We should look into the intrinsic value of life. We should look into the internal value of life. We should not judge it by its external appearance. Everything seems bright and beautiful externally, but internally they may not be so bright and beautiful, and life should not be judged in such a way. We should look into the value of life. We should evaluate life positively. Then let's go into the second stanza. Life is real, life is honest. You see in this line, the word life has been repeated twice. This is a poetic device or figure of speech called anaphora, where a word is repeated again and again. This is called anaphora. So life is real, life is honest is an example of anaphora. Life is real. Here the part means that life is factual. It is absolutely positive, palpable, and concrete. It is effective, authentic, genuine, and fertile. Life is real. It has much value. Life has some practical value. It is pragmatic and it is substantial. We must understand, we must realize, we must conceive its intrinsic worth. It is something kinetic. Life is not dormant. Life is not in doldrums. You have to take it very positively and realistically. Therefore, life is real. Life is honest, means life is serious. Should not be taken ordinarily. It is something very extraordinary. Life is something scintillating. It is coruscating. The life has some coruscating value, some dazzling value, some glowing value. You have to look into it. You have to look into the illumination of life, how it dazzles, how it sparkles. You must take it seriously. It is purposeful, it is meaningful, packed with meaning, and it is something solemn, somber, and awe-inspiring. You should not judge life as per its denotation. You have to take into account, you have to consider the connotation, the quality, the value of life. And therefore, life is honest, means it is serious. And the grave is not its goal. Here, grave is not the term. Here, the grave means death. Grave is the symbol of death, and grave is not its goal, meaning death is not the goal of life. Some poets have said that man is born to die, and after we are born, we make a journey of life, and the journey of life ends at the death. But here poet says grave is not the goal of life, death is not the objective of life, death is not the purpose of life, death is not the target of life, death is not the end of life, death is not the aim of life, the ambition of life is not a death, the objective of life is not a death, the destination of life is not death. Life has some positive value, so we have to rummage into the positivity, optimism of our life. We have to invent the essence of life, the nectar of life, the ambrosia of life. We should not taste the bitterness, the misery, the anguish of life. And therefore, grave is not the goal of life. Meaning, death is not, or grave is not, or death is not the ambition, target, or destination of life. The next line, dust thou art, to dust thou returnest. This is a biblical reference. This line has been extracted from the Holy Bible, and also according to our Hinduism, life is made up of 5 elements. They are fire, air, water, soil, and including heaven. So life is made up of 5 elements of life. Here also the Bible almost says the same thing. Dust thou art. When God first created man, the human being on earth, He first created the male person Adam. And Bible says God created Adam out of dust. So man is made of dust. And after our death, after our demise, when we cease to exist, our physical body would be merged in dust again. We would return to dust again. We would be transfused with dust again. Our physical body, which is subject to death and decay, will be soused, will be submerged into earth again. So this physical body is something earthly, it is something mundane, and it is subject to death and decay. Time will destroy it. it will come under the devastating effect of time, which runs by minutes, hours, days, and months, and time kills everything that is physical on earth, but doesn't kill. Time has no power. Time cannot kill the soul, which is immortal, which is divine, which is celestial, which is godly. Last line of the second stanza was not spoken of the soul, meaning this body is destructive, this body is subject to death and decay and destruction. This body will be decimated, this body will be destroyed, this body will be obliterated. This line is applicable to our physical body, not to our soul, which is immortal. I have already told you, it is eternal, it is celestial, it is divine, it is godly, it is not transitory, it is permanent, it is imperishable. And soul is something unthinkable, imperishable. You can do nothing to it, you can take no steps against it. Soul is something airy, it is a divine entity, and it is not subject to death and destruction, it is immortal. So dust thou art, to dust thou returnest. This line was not spoken, this line is not applicable to the soul, which is immortal. Soul is imperishable and indestructible. This body is just like a piece of garment. When this garment becomes torn, or when this garment or a dress, this body is compared to a dress. When the dress is torn, the soul just changes it and gets transferred into another body. Therefore, the soul is permanent, it is immortal, it is deathless, it is timeless, it is perdurable, it is perpetual, it is perennial, and finally, the soul is undying. And here I would conclude the second stanza of the poem, A Psalm of Life. And if you like this explanation, you would share and subscribe it to your friends. And it is not possible to cover all the stanzas in the single video, and I will discuss all of the stanzas in my next videos. And if you like it and subscribe it, I will feel inspired just like the poem A Psalm of Life. Thanking you all again.